It's a revolution, style revolution, cultural revolution.
When we come out here, we have a fight.
Evolution does not occur in one stage. It's an evolutionary process, like people go through different things.
The real content of any kind of revolutionary thrust lies in the principles and the goals that you're striving for.
That you are here. And to be here means that you can't leave that out.
We have to become involved in a program of re-education to educate our people into the importance of knowing.
It's a revolution, style revolution, cultural revolution.
Yo, what up?
Yo, what's up?
You tuned into the Peaceful Rage podcast
Featuring Matt Murphy and Dr. Wes Bellamy. Two brothers.
working in our community,
Active, caring for our families.
still trying to give back,
We see what's going on with the big picture.
and we pissed off about it.
Peaceful Rage Podcast.
Peaceful Rage podcast.
So listen, we like getting into all kinds of things, right? I mean,
That's true.
There's not really any topic I think that we have off limits, at least,
Yeah.
in setting up for the show. We haven't said, we can't talk about that.
Nah,
Matter
no
of fact,
doubt.
I kind of like it. If somebody says, you can't talk about that, that's what we're going to talk about. But one of the things that we want to do and that we are vocal about is that we want to speak to issues that black men face.
No doubt.
But these are also issues that all people face, the things that we talk about on the show. And so we do have a perspective of wanting to speak to and reach out to black men, but we also recognize, hey, this goes across the board. And so one of the things I know that you and I've talked about just in our encounters, working in the community, working with people.
Personally.
And personally in our own lives.
Right.
Is the issue of child support.
CS.
Right. I remember years ago, I was working with this guy at a collections agency, and we got our paychecks, back when you still got a check stub, right?
What?
And
A
over
check
the-
stub?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hell is that?
And yeah, right. It's a piece of paper. No.
Gotcha.
And so he opened, he said, man, Chisholm got me. I said, Chisholm? I said, what's that?
Yo, Chisholm.
It said CH period SUP period. And it took his money, boy. I said, Chisholm got me.
Yo, the wage garnishment joint is real, but the fact that homie called it Chisholm, damn, my education has some shit to do, and I say that as a doctor with a damn doctorate in education administration. We got some work to do. But yo, man, like real talk, bro. We could joke about it,
Right.
but it's a very serious topic, man, specifically for a lot of brothers, man, the topic of child support. So, a lot of people don't know, man, this is something that can really not only tear homes apart, but really make brothers and sisters, for that matter, go into a deep level of depression, make you make some decisions that you definitely wouldn't normally make you wind up in a position or in a place that you normally wouldn't want to be in. I mean,
Right.
yo, bro, have you ever had any issues with child support? Or has that ever been an issue for you?
Right. So, I had my first child when I was 18. I was still in high school.
Yeah.
And, initially, there was no child support arrangement in place.
Y'all good. Yeah,
but as she grew up, as we were growing up, and she's moving to being independent, she got some assistance early in the game. And at that point, the state of Ohio decided, well, we need to be compensated. We're giving her, and so they came after me.
Wait, she didn't even file the papers?
She didn't file. The state did, and that's common in a lot of states that if somebody, if the custodial parent, a lot of times it's the mom, but if the custodial parent is receiving benefits,
Yeah.
then the state will work to try to recoup those costs, and so like if the parent is on TANF, for example, and actually
Yeah.
receiving a check,
Yeah.
that parent may not get child support. Like the person paying the dad, if you would, paying child support, that money that he's giving goes straight back to the government a lot of times.
Wow.
So,
Bro, I never heard of the government initiating child support. That's something new for me, for real.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Damn.
Yeah.
So how did that work out? So they came after you? And
just my story real quick. So they came after me. The crazy thing was I got laid off from my job 2 days before I had my child support hearing. So I only had to pay the minimum at that point in time, which I was 18. I wasn't really doing anything anyway.
Right.
And so that whole thing happened. Did that for a while. Me and her split and things got funky and we went back to the courts. And at that point in time, I had another job for a little bit. Again, I was 18, 19, trying to figure it out. Right.
Yeah.
And I was between jobs when I had to go back to court. And I remember the judge looked at me and he said, "You have the potential to earn." this much money.
The potential to earn.
And that's a common statement that you hear in child
Yeah.
support courts is the potential to earn, which basically means if you were making $500 a week at one point in time, and then something happens and you get a demotion or you lose your job, now you're making $350 a week. The courts can still look at you and say you have the potential to earn $500, even though you're not. We're going to charge you like you are.
So go out there and make a way to make
Go
the
out there and
500.
make it. That's exactly what happens.
That's tough, bro.
Yeah. So did that. My son's grown now. There's been times I was
So you made
behind.
it. Yeah.
Had to deal with some of those consequences.
Yeah.
Never got locked up behind it, but no, I got people that are very
Yeah,
close to
of
me that
course.
spent time in there for that.
Bro, I mean that's a very serious situation. So I mean, I think about like my first daughter, my biological daughter, and her mother and I are together. It was a college thing where we were having fun in college with two kids. That's crazy in college, and I always remember like having this conversation with her and her saying that no matter what, she wanted to never allow her child to be in the system, right? So I was lucky, right? And I was blessed, man. When I first got out of college, I was able to move right here to Charlottesville, and I had a job where I could afford to take care of my daughter. And I could get her what she needed. And my daughter's mother never was on like some super grimy stuff. I know it's been some times I've been like, yo, man, what you need this money for? You ain't. My daughter like 8 months, man. Yo, come on, man. You need all this money for. But she's never been on, in my opinion, or to my knowledge, just been on some super grimy stuff where she's just trying to extort me, right, or even try to turn me in or anything like that to make me go through the court system. And I've just been very appreciative of that, right? Like even in times, because we're like 22, 23, 24, like we're hot-headed, we're young, you know what I'm saying? And you say a lot of things that you don't necessarily mean. You're trying to navigate this life, and you two aren't quite getting along per se all the time.
You got the distance between you,
and
right?
she's 4 hours away from me. Yeah. So, we're trying to figure all of that out. And I mean, I'm just been very grateful. But, I've seen it go the other way. I've seen brothers be in situations in which they literally have drove, hours on hours to be with their child, give them their last, and the mother, because the mother is upset that they're not together, decides to put the brother on child support, and he just can't pay it. Right. And then he winds up being locked up, and then you're in the system now, which you're locked up, and it's kind of like a circle. You locked up, you can't pay the child support. You eventually get out. Now you're behind on the child support. The mother's saying, well, we got this court order. You can't see the child until you pay the child support, so you give me my money. And, it's just really messed up. And I see brothers fade out of lives, right? They'd be like, well, I just deal with my child, him or her, when he or she's 18, and I can fully understand. They can understand and tell them, which I never would advise anyone to do. But man, it's tough, bro. So I mean, like, yo, you've been able to navigate that system. How does one deal with that and still be a present-minded parent or father, even while on child support, and you may not have the best relationship with the other parent?
That's the hard thing, man. There's so many layers to it, right? So I remember early in the game, going in front of the magistrate about trying to get, visitation to see my son. And I'll never forget, he looked at her, and the judge looked at my son's mom and said, do you love your son? And she said, of course. And the judge looked at me. He said, do you love your son? I said, absolutely. He said, well, guess what? I don't. He said, you don't want me making decisions for your child. Go in that room and work it out and come back and see me. And he sent it straight to mediation.
Oh,
and I will never forget that.
Bro, that's some of the realest shit ever, bro. That's some of the realest shit ever. Word.
And so I just say that as an example of, so often I think we've been conditioned to go in the direction of trusting the courts, who we know the courts have failed us. Black people, the justice system has failed us time and time again. And yet here we are entrusting our family structure to a court system that's already fucked up. And then what? These brothers we're talking about this cycle that's impacting these brothers who now have a criminal record. So it's now difficult for them to get a job. We already know the wages are going to be janky, and when they get out, and so it's even that much more difficult to pay it off, and it just continues. So I'm not saying that the courts don't play a worthwhile role in some capacity, but I'm just saying, man, a lot of times I just think it's better off if y'all can work it out outside of the courts. Yo, what's up? You're listening to the Peaceful Rage podcast featuring me, Matt Murphy, and Dr. Wes Bellamy.
So I'm really solution oriented, right? And one of the things that, like, even statistically, right? So in 2013, 5.7 million custodial parents who were due child support under the terms of agreements or current awards were due an average of $4,370, an aggregate of 32.9 billion in payments due. $32.9 billion, bruh. And then about 68.5% of the 32.9 billion in child support was due in 2013 was reported as received, averaging nearly $3,950 per year per custodial parent who was due support. Right? So that's about 3/4 or nearly 74% of custodial parents who were due child support in 2013 received either full or partial payments, and less than half, 45.6%, received full payments.
Right.
So based on these numbers, it would lead you to believe that, you know, a lot of people are trying to pay their child support, but they just, you know, some are falling short, but a lot of them are, you know, doing what they need to do. And I got some numbers that, like, if you'll indulge me for a second, that goes even deeper, right? So in 2014, about 5 of every 6 custodial parents were mothers, right? So 82.5%. And 1 of every 6 were fathers, 17.5%. Proportions that were not statistically different from those in 1994. So custodial fathers were more likely than mothers to be divorced, 45.2%, were less likely to be never married, so 28.2% of those were never married. And then while not statistically different proportions were currently married, only 15%, separated 10.5%, and widowed, the proportion of custodial mothers under 30 years of age decreased from 31% in 1994 to 23.9% in 2014. And these are all data. This all data came from the Census Bureau statistics, right?
Right.
So what essentially that says to me is that when a mother, the majority of mothers who are the custodial parents, right, and like that number isn't really different from 1994. And then in the situations, in the uncommon situation, because it's only about 17.5% of the time where the fathers are indeed the custodial parent, they're likely to be divorced or they've never been married, but still they're ending up with these children. Right. And I wonder if the brothers, those who have been in positions in which they are the custodial parent, are they receiving child support at the same rate of those that have been of the opposite, right? So, like, I mean, you've been in a situation where you've had to be the father, right? The single father.
Right.
Were you able to receive child support?
No, and I didn't go after it.
Do you think that's the norm? Like, a lot of brothers, when they are indeed the custodial parent, they decide not to go after the child support?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think every situation is different, so it's it's really hard to say. I think, you know, listening to those statistics, you know, among some others that we had read before we started the show, you know, it makes me think about, you know, how much has changed. And again, I'm thinking on the family structure side of things. Yeah. Again, you know, you start talking about the statistics behind how many were never married versus how many, you know, were married, and what the black family looks like. You know what I mean? We've talked before about the attack on the black family. Yeah. And, you know, I think this is not like the sole, you know, oppressive thing regarding the black family, but at the same time, this is another factor in the destruction of the black family, in my opinion, in many ways. And so, you know, you start talking about the racial wage gap, you know what I mean? Yeah. And where I was reading an article recently where they talked about, on average, you know, in this community, white men earned $21 an hour, whereas black men earn $15 an hour. Right. And so, you know, given black men's disadvantage in the workplace, it's pretty safe to presume that they also probably are disproportionately owe child support, and they can't afford it. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I got a solution, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? You know, we enjoy data, and I really like solutions. Right. One of the things that I oftentimes tell my students, I tell the little brothers, I tell the you know, some of the cats my age who I rock with, you know, I'm 31, so some of my friends are still living a life of in which they're having a lot of fun, right? And in our 20s, we had a ton of fun. But yo, man, real shit, some of the realest stuff I could say, bro, don't go in no chick raw if you're not willing to have a child with her.
Like, that's some of the realest shit. Like, yo, think about this, bro. Like, and I know it's gonna feel good for those, 5-10 minutes or whatever, 15-20 minutes, whatever, right? Like, it's gonna feel good then. But it's this individual that you're laying down with and you going raw with, can she potentially be the mother of your child? And if not, bro, put the condom on. Or better yet, bro, like, yo, we getting too old. Like, real shit, dog, don't have sex with her at all, bro. Like, I know that's hard to say. And I wish somebody would have told me that. And probably Cass did tell me that when I was younger. And I just ain't listen. I know for some people this will go in one ear, not the other. Sure. But specifically for this, like, this 25 between 25 and 34 age demographic.
Okay.
And you kind of starting to finally feel yourself. You're ugly wearing off. You think that you're getting your waves spinning, and some chicks on Instagram telling you handsome. You got a little bit of paper, and you just want to go out and you want to slay everything, bro. Real talk though. If you having sex with a chick and you can't see her as potentially the mother of your child, dog, don't do it, because this shit real. Like, bruh, this shit. Yo, man, this ain't TV, dog. This ain't the movies, bro. Like, bro, like, nah, like, I mean, we laugh, but
no, it made me think about my homeboy, man. I was talking to him, man, and yeah, his
what happened, bro? What happened?
So his son had a kid a while back,
yeah,
and recently had another one, with a different girl, and he's like, man, I'm gonna keep it 100, man. This new one, man, she ugly, dog. And I know it's real crazy. Shallow and real petty, but on some real stuff, like, whether you thinking about from a long-term perspective, like you gonna be with this woman in this capacity, understand the risk that you are taking to put you in a situation. You know what I mean? If she's just a jump off, if she a hood rat, if she just, some thought, like, that's what you want to take that chance to, you know what I mean? Like, cause you have a baby with this woman, right? And the likelihood of your relationship not working out is high. Then how many other cats is she gonna have around this child? You know what I mean? Yeah. What's her lifestyle actively looking like at that moment? Like, does she have enough stability in her life? Does she gotta live with her crazy uncle and 3 wild cousins? You know what I mean? And
yeah.
So I'm just kind of going back to what you saying. Like, be mindful of that too.
And not even that, bro. Think about your own situation.
Well, and AIDS.
Like accountability, and AIDS, bro. And the HIV, the herp, like the genital warts, all that shit is all real, dog.
Right.
And I'm saying, like, yo, like, I feel like we have to, especially on this podcast, we need to use our platform to let brothers know, like, you have to take accountability.
Yeah.
And if you know that you're not in a financial position to take care of a child, which at the very minimum, yo, a newborn is gonna run you what, 30 racks a year? The first couple years at the minimum?
Bro, it costs some paper,
bro.
Man.
Pampers, milk, clothes,
right.
Driving up and down the highway.
Daycare.
Oh man, we ain't even talking about daycare.
Well, see, that's what I'm saying. We start talking about child support, and I know, we are talking from the angle of black men who have paid or are actively paying, right? Whatever that looks like, currently supporting children. But then I think we have the other side of how this impacts the rest of the family.
Oh man!
So again, you start talking about the woman who's not trying to keep her children away from their dad, and she pays $800 a month for daycare, and she receives $300 a month for child support, and that's all she gets. Yeah. So basically, she covering rent, utilities, the rest of daycare, all the school stuff, because that's very common too.
Oh, no doubt.
Where brothers are like, I'm paying my child support, you ain't getting nothing else from me. Yeah, and it really ain't covering much.
It's really not covering much of anything, and we'll be the first ones to complain. Man, she using my money to go to the club.
Right.
Bro, like, that's one of my biggest beefs, bro. When cats be, you know what I'm saying, you on child support or whatnot, and like, or even if you have an agreement and you saying to the mother of your children, like, man, what you using my money on? Like, you going out getting your hair done, that money's supposed to be for my child. Like, nah, bro, she's take care of your child all day.
Yeah.
You really, like, for me, I know my situation with myself and my daughter's mother became a lot smoother when one of my OGs, matter of fact, my uncle, he sat me down and told me this. Yo, man, you have no right to tell anyone else what they're supposed to do in their house. You decided not to be there with your child's mother.
Right.
So you have no bearing on how she spends the money that you give her. And that was a hard pill for me to swallow.
That's real talk, though.
But yo, like, I cannot dictate and control what goes on in someone else's house. You got to check your ego and understand, bro, like, that money you give her, once you make that transfer or that wire transfer or that deposit, or when you give her that cash or that Venmo or that Cash App, whatever for your child, that is the mother of your child's money, and she decides to spend it how she sees fit, and that's
Right.
it.
She could trick it off and put it up her nose.
Yeah, like,
And
she
that
could.
happens too.
That happens often. And I mean, but again, if this is the individual that you chose to have a child with,
Right.
don't lay down and have a child with a chick and then be like, get on some tip like you holier than thou. You got to deal what comes with the consequences. Now, granted, you know, we both have seen situations in which there have been some mothers who have made decisions where we would be like, damn, like, I wish you really wouldn't have done that. Or
Right.
we know people who may have gone off the rocker or whatever. But again, this is a situation that we've put ourselves in, so you got to live with the consequences. You know what I'm saying? What really grinds my gears sometimes is when brothers don't want to take accountability for what they've done. So as we talk about solutions, bro, you have to be committed if you're going to have a child with someone to go through the ups, the downs, and what comes with it. It may not be fair, but when you lay down and you decide to have unprotected sex with someone, and you decide to, this ain't the birds and the bees class, but when you decide to, you know, insert and allow for certain things and eggs to be made and sperm meet with that little egg, you know, little wormy fish looking thing or whatever it is, you know what I'm saying? And it's going in that egg and that baby comes out, bro, it's bigger than you.
Yeah.
It's bigger than you. So, yo, if you don't want the kid, don't go raw. Period.
All right, Reverend.
Yo, what up? You tune into the Peaceful Rage podcast featuring me, Dr. Wes Bellamy, and my man, Matt Murphy.
You know, I've got 3 sons, you know, 2 stepsons and my own son. And, you know, it was, I promise you, man, there were many a days when I look at those young men running around, you know, feeling themselves, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, what's getting ready to happen in their world? You know what I mean? And thank God, like, it's nothing crazy, you know what I mean?
Because all of your kids have done well.
Yeah, they're doing good, man. I'm super proud of them. But, you know, at the same time, we also recognize, like, you know, there aren't always people that are getting in, you know, their ear. Like, things that you said just now, some people might hear that once or never.
Or never, yeah.
You know, so let's switch gears for a second, though, as we continue to talk about child support, you know, like thinking through, you know, what it means to be a black male, you know, and kind of circling back around, but a black male trying to navigate many of the challenges that we know are very present, and add to it this, and I won't call it a burden of child support, but I will call it like a burden that, imposed by the courts, you know what I mean? Like, it's never, your children are not a burden, right?
Yeah,
but
never.
the system that requires, you know, for you to pay them, that can be burdensome. And so we, you know, kind of going back to what we talked about a few minutes ago, we've known people that have spent time in the penitentiary behind child support. And the cycle continues. I read an article earlier today about this guy. He said every 8 months or so, he gets locked back up, because I think he was in like Nebraska, somewhere in the Midwest, Kansas or Nebraska, whatever system they had, you know, basically like he was constantly behind after he got to a certain amount or didn't pay for a certain amount of time. Then he got locked back up. And so that his arrear just went back up again. So he just basically got out, worked to pay it down, but he was over the threshold as soon as he got out of jail. And he goes back to jail.
So it's twofold, right? I look at it not only as a father, a black male father, but also as a policymaker, right? So one part of me oftentimes wants to look at how I can work with my colleagues to create legislation to, you know, do something about the child support in regards to, let's figure out how we can either not allow individuals to accrue interest on the child support. Can we not allow them to be penalized multiple times over the same thing? Like, if you've made a effort, if you pay 6 months consecutively, can we, you know, make it where they can't be locked up for another 6 months? I don't know, right? Like, brothers are trying.
Right.
But then the other side of me, I've seen some sorry ass dudes, if I'm just being 100.
Real talk.
Right? So I've seen some men who have decided to, rather than help or do whatever they can to help the mother of their children take care of their families, they decide to just not do shit.
Right.
And I feel like, yo, if we were to enact certain legislation that would allow for some brothers to slide off easy, will that have the negative impact on the mothers or the individuals who are taking care of the children? Because it could be grandparents, right?
Right.
And would that also provide another out for those who choose not to do the right thing? Like, it's a real slippery slope, man.
That's a double-edged sword.
For real. So like if I was to go and talk to our state legislators and be like, yo, man, let's do something and create a law or pass some kind of resolution that stops all child support. How many brothers would just stop paying and just stop taking care of their children?
Right.
Right? How many would continue to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do? And even with the child support piece, like, I wonder, of course you have some individuals or some mothers who are just illogical. Some people who are just illogical, right? I don't want to deal with you at all. But yo, is it that hard to figure out? Can you work something out? Can you work out an agreement?
Well, again, I mean, so many different situations, I think.
And it's a lot of layers, right?
Yeah, because, you might have a situation where it is best for it to be in the court in some capacity. One, I think going back to what you said, proposing like, some piece of legislation, resolution, policy that can implement change, the other side of that sword is that, it's still not healing really the heart and the relationship between those two individuals that have this child.
Yeah.
So, courts don't do that. You know what I mean? Oh, baby mama won in court today. They increased my child support. You know what I mean? Their relationship isn't better. They're not better parents as a result
at
of
all.
That. You know what I mean? So like part of,
excuse me.
I think part of my solution would be going a bit more on that kind of holistic level, where it's not a dependency again on a system, in my opinion, that's already failed. More so it is, teaching young people, hey, the value of their sexuality, the value of their, their fatherhood or their motherhood. Valuing the family, like what that looks like. Because if we don't have time, but if we really got into the statistics and started to see the increase in the Black community of single parent led households, it's outlandish.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And to me, it's not just, in my opinion, it's not just like a failure of Black morality that now we have, 68-70% of our Black households are led by single parents. And, 50 years ago it was a far lower figure. I think there was a systemic, attack again on the family.
Yeah.
That has led to attitudes and mindsets that have allowed us to be in a place where people talk about, how much they don't need a daddy and how much they don't need
But
a man
parenting
around.
has also changed though. Like it's evolved in a lot of different ways in today's generation, right? Like, so, there's a CDC report that came out a couple years ago, if I'm not mistaken, and it was saying that Black dads actually have the highest amount of contact with their children out of any ethnicity, right? So like Black dads were most common to put their kids to bed, do homework with their kids, do activities with them, so on and so forth.
Right.
So there are brothers who out there who actually want to be involved and like we're doing the work. I think, again, parenting has also evolved in different ways. Like, while I may not live with my daughter, Michaela, and I have my other two with me, every single day, obviously their mother and I are married. When I need to speak to my daughter, I can FaceTime her. I can call her on the phone. If she knows, and she definitely knows, Daddy will drive to be there whenever he's needed. Or if you decide to do something that Daddy said that you should not do, Daddy will make the effort and stop everything else. I don't give a damn if it's city council. I don't give a damn what other community thing is going on. There's nothing that comes before my children and my family. So I think there are a lot of other brothers who have come to the realization that, I may not necessarily have to be with the mom or be in the household to be a good dad. Also, if we're going to be 100, I know you want to say something.
Yeah,
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
If we're going to be 100, when we talk about, the families in the household, let's not front and act like it wasn't. The Temptations made that song, Papa Was a Rolling Stone, for a reason.
Right.
And there were a lot of individuals who had 2-3 families here and there.
Right.
And the mothers stayed with the husbands and they decided to tolerate certain things. And I've heard, people talk about the divorce rates and the divorce rates are so much higher now. I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing, because we've seen an evolution in women in terms of empowerment, in which they have become a lot more financially stable, so they don't have to stick around and deal with your bullshit. Right? So like I'm teaching my daughters, you really, daddy's always going to be here for you, and I want you to respect and value a man, but you also respect and value yourself. You don't got to put up with nobody bullshit.
Right.
Like you have parents, and I want to make sure that you're self-sustainable, in which you can be independent and take care of yourself. You don't need a man for shit. Right? I mean, some things, and you respect and appreciate everyone, but don't feel like you have to be dependent on a man or stay in a situation that you don't want to be in. And I think that's, with this women's empowerment and feminism movement, we've seen a lot of that. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah,
I said a lot. I know, my bad.
Well, yeah, no. Where do I jump in?
Right.
Well, no. Again, I think I'm just going back to anecdotally we can think through the struggle into manhood that some young men face when they are surrounded by an environment that doesn't value or promote their masculinity.
So let's be 100. You're talking about situations like what? If a kid is let me paint a picture. If a kid is in a household and a young boy is in a household with all women, do you think, is that what you're talking about? Or are you talking about?
That could be a situation. I just think, across the country, you've got young black men who are going to jail at an early age. Okay. You know what I mean? You've got, generations and generations of young men that have not been raised by or around men. That impacts the way they look at the world. That impacts the way they see themselves in the world. That impacts how they operate as black men in the world. You know what I mean? And so I think if you don't have those kinds of interactions, and you're constantly hearing, I'm not saying this is always the case, obviously. I've just had enough conversations with people over the years that have said, I didn't know what I was supposed to think about being a man.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what it means.
You and I had this conversation where you said to them like, well, what these young brothers? They don't know. Right. So let's stop and talk about, you and I get a second that we can get in their ear. Yeah. Why don't they know?
You're right.
Because their daddy, he's a sorry ass. That's why he ain't telling them, or he ain't there, or who is there? Let's ask that question. Who's there? Why is he not hearing these things? Who is around? And I'm not saying this is all about single moms or women or any of those things, or people getting some kind of ideas about me, but I'm saying, I think a lot of times, and we sat in these meetings before where shit gets watered down. Yeah, shit gets watered down, dog. Nah, you know what I'm saying? And our manhood gets watered down, dog. You know what I'm saying? Bro, I'm just saying.
So, bro, I would not deny that. You are absolutely right. I mean, we've been in several meetings in which we're leading them, and for whatever reason, they get watered down. Right? There's an emasculation of sorts when
it comes to manhood and blackness in particular.
Right.
Straight up.
Yeah, so we've been 100
two things in particular.
Yeah, if we've been 100, I would agree with you there, but I think we have to find the balance. So is the emasculation in terms of the male being quote unquote watered down, or your blackness being quote unquote watered down, is that due to there's been so much hyper, and potentially toxic masculinity that it's finally just starting to balance out? Or is it because some brothers are just checking out? Or is it the rise of, other quote unquote isms in which other voices are being elevated while our voices are being devalued and or decreased? And that leads to certain situations in which you see, turmoil of sorts, right? I'm not.
I'd say yes.
You say yes.
Yes to all those things, right?
So I'm not a believer in there's only one or two ways to be a quote unquote man. Right. Right. Like you can be a man in a variety of different ways. Like if you're a gay man, you still a man. You're a heterosexual man, you're still a man. You lift weights, you're still a man. You don't lift weights, you play the piano. You like defense instead of playing basketball. Like I don't know. Like you like I don't know. Like there's no one way to be a quote unquote man.
But to be a man.
And a man to me is an individual who takes care of their responsibilities, who doesn't, cower or run away, who is accountable and decides to, accept responsibility for their mistakes when they make them, be willing to rectify their past mistakes. And those, my point is all that, Murph, those are learned behaviors, right? Like you have to learn to be a man. Hell, you got to learn to be an adult. And if we're not around, like the brothers who quote unquote have the consciousness as men to teach our younger brothers, you can be a man and you can be gay, you can be straight, you can be black, you can be white, like whatever. Just be a man. But if we ain't in the picture to teach them how to do it, then you got a whole just fucking generation of kids in their second adolescence.
Okay, so let's go back to that point, right?
All right. You said, why aren't we there? Oh, my bad.
No, I'm just saying, like, yes, a man can be and look like and do all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Right? But indeed, he is a man. He is a father. That is that's a role that this individual plays.
Yeah.
Like, let me just ask you, would you ever call a female a father for someone?
No.
Why?
I mean, it's not a, well, they what?
Because a female's a woman.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
A woman would be a mother.
Right.
Right. My point in all that is saying whatever the picture of masculinity is that you know what I'm saying, things need that it is being painted.
Yeah.
Right. It's not the picture of masculinity. It's the fact that this individual can be and is present and able to model what it means to be a man, whatever that looks like, whether it's a coal miner or a fashion designer. But he's there and present and available. So bring it back to the child support issue, right?
Yeah.
If child support puts you in a place where you cannot be there, if other parties involved, in this case it's called a baby mama, does not value the role of the father, right?
Yeah.
Then that impacts the family, which in turn impacts the child who you see in your schools and you say he don't know.
Yeah.
So again, if you've got these individuals at this tension, that's why they can't work this shit out. They're at tension. She don't value him as a man being there and the role that he may play in that child's life. And he may not even be in control whether he feels any kind of way about the baby's mom or not. He's not in any kind of control on what she's putting in that child's head 23 hours a day, 6 days a week. And vice versa if it was the man and a woman, whatever. You know what I mean?
So my only beef with that, or my only issue with what you said is, because I agree with probably 85% of it. The 15% where I disagree is in things that I've seen both you and I do. And I know that we may be anomalies to a certain extent. But yo, dog, once you have a child, there's literally nothing that should stop you from being with your kid. Unless like it's just some like super reason. Bruh. Yo, we've all had to deal with women or individuals who may have been, who may have done different things to keep us from our children. But I feel like you can still make the effort so that your child knows that Dad wants to be with you. Dad, like, regardless of all the other stuff. And there's nothing wrong with us using the same mechanisms, whether that's the courts, whether that's other family members or whatever, to have those interactions to be with our children. Like, I just don't, I feel like sometimes our brothers give up too quick. Like, man, mom tripping. She tripping, man. I don't want to be with her. She mad because I don't want to be with her. Or she trying to put me on papers. Or like this or she that. But bro, it's the child that's suffering. So, like, for your child, are you willing to deal with certain things? Because, you chose to have that baby with that person. Not your child. Your child ain't got nothing to do with it, dog.
Maybe. I mean...
Bruh, my baby mom... I know she probably gonna listen to this podcast.
I hope the ear got his finger on the button.
Right. I mean, but like for real, bro. When I was younger and we first having a child, dog, and I'm like, yo, man, like, damn, we just not getting along, right? And I mean, we've never had like super beefs. Now, in hindsight, I look at it like we ain't never had no super crazy beef. We ain't never had no double negative. My fault. Thanks, doctor. But I will say there's been times where I've really been just really frustrated with her. And it would make me want to like not want to be around my child. But then I would think about it like, yo, I'm not about to not be around my child because me and her mother are having an issue. Like, bro, even if...
But hold it though, because part of it is you though. Because that's not your personality type to run, to turn from. You know what I mean? Again, everybody's not built that way.
You're
so
right.
we start talking about the things that we can do and that we should do. learned behavior, one, personality. Hell, his baby mama could be whooping his ass. You know what I'm saying?
Not to laugh, because that's real.
And
Not
she
even to
bullying
laugh.
him and getting his money. You know what I mean? Like, she digging in his pocket. She
Yeah,
whooped
she
his
baby
ass.
D for
and
real?
Then she demoed.
She baby D and Devo. You got some new cupcakes coming out. My bad. Sorry, my bad.
You know, so yes, I agree. I think you and I have been in certain places and done certain things because of, again, what we believe and what we value and the things that were taught us, these learned behaviors.
I've
that
definitely
we have.
seen you go above and beyond.
Huh? You know.
I've definitely seen you go above and beyond. My bad. I'm sorry to
good.
cut you off.
No, you're good. So I'm just saying, like, at the end of the day, I think, yes, we agree. You know what I mean? I think how we get there is going to be different because, again, you know, bringing it back around to child support, because I know we're getting ready to have to wrap this episode up. But, you know, bringing it back around, my general idea on brothers that are going through this issue right now, that maybe are in arrearages, that maybe have been in and out of jail behind it, maybe had their driver's license suspended behind it, and now they can't get to work because you know what, that happened to me. You can tell that story, right? I didn't even know, you know, and so
Right.
all these things that happen, brothers are impacted immensely, but that also, we can talk about depression and economics in the black community, but we know how black men can be challenged in specific ways, and so that leads them to oftentimes pull away. You know what I mean?
Bro, on that real quick, I know we got to go.
Yeah.
But I feel you. And brothers, sometimes, I feel like we don't talk about this enough. Like, yo, the depression piece that could come from you feeling as if you cannot take care of your child, dog, that's some real shit.
That you can't take care of your child, that you can't see your child, that
Bruh.
you gotta let this person over here in this court tell you when you can see your child.
Yeah. I remember my daughter was like 7 or 8 months old. And I don't know what it was, or maybe she was even younger. I cannot remember why I didn't have any money. And my, like I can't even remember like what happened. I don't know like what happened,
Right.
but I didn't have any money. And my daughter's mom, like, yo, I'm the type, I was literally calling my daughter every day from like the time she was like a month. Like, she heard daddy's voice every single day. She can't even talk, but she hear her daddy's voice. And I remember like her mom asked me for some Pampers or for something, and I just couldn't do it. Right? Like I didn't have the money, and bro, I felt so bad. And it was like 3 days that I didn't call my child because I didn't know how to cope. Like, I felt inadequate.
Right.
And I know there's a lot of brothers. I mean, even having certain conversations with brothers, asking them, why did you leave your family? You know, old heads, why you left your family? And the pressure of them believing that they couldn't take care of their child led them into, you know, a level of depression, made them start using drugs, start drinking, turn to substance abuse, turn to other vices, and spiral out of control. And now there's a whole family damaged. But that's why the mental health component, like, one thing I would wish, yo, like, after a child is born, like, both parents have some kind of therapy session in which they talk about, you know, here's what parenting may quote unquote look like, or here's some things to expect, or have individual therapy sessions.
Nah. But go ahead.
You say nah?
Nah.
Bruh, brothers
I
think that.
don't want nobody mandate that shit to me, dog. No, you know what I'm saying? I have my baby, I'm going home, dog. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it don't got to be the same day. I mean, but yo,
you're right, but
like,
I'm just saying, like, I don't need no people. See, that's our difference right there.
So you don't believe in therapy?
I do believe in therapy.
I was gonna say, I know you.
I don't believe in anybody mandating it, though. I don't believe just because you have a child. I'm not saying that's what you are exactly saying.
Yeah.
I'm just giving you a hard time. But, you know, like,
low key though, that is what I'm saying though.
yeah, see, bump that. See, that's that old liberal bullshit,
low
man.
key?
Go ahead, man. You want to program it to death,
I'm
man.
saying, bruh, how much better would we be if we like had to have therapy and you could talk through your issues and what you have going on, especially for these younger brothers.
Let's catch them before they start even pulling their dick out their pants. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I mean, can we do
You
that
right.
though? Because I mean,
You right? No, you right.
I think that would probably be where it started. Just my 2 cents.
Nah, no doubt, bro. I can't even tell you. I'm a dean at an alternative high school.
Right.
All of my youngins are under the age of 19. I cannot tell you, like, how many of them come to me. It's weekly. Man, Dr. West, because I don't call me like Dr. They don't call me Dr. Bellamy. Like, Dr. West, man, Mr. West, man. She said she pregnant, bruh. Bro, I don't know what I'm gonna do, bruh. And these are like 14, 15, 16-year-old kids. And I'm talking to them like, yo, bro, since I've been here for this whole year, we've talked about don't make certain decisions or understand this is what comes with that. And for their entire young lives, for their first 13, 14, 15, 16 years of their lives, they haven't been getting this talk. And now we want them to revert into being, quote unquote, the perfect kids.
Right.
And unlearn these behaviors, and they don't. So now you got, man, bro, I can't like really go into it, but I can't tell you how many of my students have children.
I believe it,
bro.
Man.
It's a gang up, dog, and it's kind of like the norm to a certain extent. Like they have a kid, bro, like they laugh for a minute and they like, yeah, all right, I just have a kid. And these are 15, 16, 17-year-olds, some of them with multiple children. Right. And now we have to figure out ways to get them the resources that they need to take care of these children. Now, mind you, bro, you 15, you 16 years old. Your brain is nowhere near developed. I saw a study the other day that said the male's frontal lobes don't even develop until they're 26. Right? So you're 15 or 16, thinking as a 15, 16-year-old, and you have 2 children. Mm-hmm. Bro, how you going to do that?
You're not.
How you going to do that?
You're not.
That's another episode.
Yeah. That's another episode. No, real talk, man. We appreciate you guys listening. I think we started one place and we kind of brought it back around.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, man, let me just encourage those brothers and those sisters that are either having to pay child support and going through that struggle, man, and you get your paycheck and you see it's just that Chisholm got you, right? Chisholm got you, right?
Fuck Chisholm.
Damn Chisholm, right? And it hurts and it stings and you gotta do a little extra and that's part of the game. You know what I mean? It's not always gonna be like that. You know what I mean? So just keep on pressing on.
It gets better,
right? And if you listening and you're not receiving your child support and it's owed to you, I remember, and this is my last story. I'm gonna get out of here.
Go ahead, bro.
I remember literally fist fighting. You know what I'm saying? One of my peoples because his daddy didn't pay child support for years. He turned 18. They tracked this dude down. His mama was set to get a check for like 20 grand. And my dude thought it should have came to him. And we fought in his living room, like, because I'm like, nigga, that's all them years that your mama took care of you.
Yeah.
And you was 12. Did you have a job? And when you was 9. And when you was 11.
Oh, so he was mad. He thought he was supposed to get the check.
He was supposed to get the check.
Bro. Nah, bro, that's my money.
Right. Fought him in his house.
Yeah, I had to come to fisticuffs.
Right. So anyway. So
you banged him out?
Yeah. Oh, got him. But real talk, if you're not receiving your check, you know what I mean? Like be encouraged, you know what I'm saying? Things will change. It's certainly difficult. And the thing I'm reminded oftentimes is as difficult as life can be, you know what I mean? I'm not the only person that's ever gone through this. And there's people that have survived this. And you know what I mean? If I can kind of listen to them and learn lessons from them, I can get through it too, man. So y'all hold tight, man.
Yo, man. Let us know what you think, man. Leave a message in the comments. You know, we'll have this episode up on iTunes, Spotify, everywhere, you know, on our website. You know what I'm saying? Hit us up. Let us know what you think about this episode. Feel free to send us an email at peacefulragepodcast at gmail.com. Hit us up on social media at peacefulragepodcast. That's Twitter, Instagram, as well as Facebook. My man Murph, we did it again.
We out.
We'll see you next week. Peaceful Rage Podcast. Shout out to the ear, Damani for Prez. What up, bruh?
Yes, sir.
So, yo, as always, man, we want to thank the listeners. Appreciate y'all rocking with us.
Absolutely, man.
Shout out to our sponsors.
Life View Marketing, Ty Cooper.
Shout out to our producer, The Ear.
The Ear.
Yo, what up, man? At Damani for Press, hit him up. And also, if you want to be able to sponsor with us or, you know, you want to come through on the show, look out for us. Hit us up on Gmail at peacefulragepodcast@gmail.com. Hit us up on social media at Peaceful Rage Podcast on all social media websites. That's Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.